But you're listening to The Light right here on 91.7 WLFR Pomona here on the campus of Stockton University. And The Light Morning Show is powered by the good people of AtlanticCityFocus.com, where we are bringing you civic engagement interviews from now up until Election Day. And so we are honored to have our esteemed Assemblyman, Mr. Don Guardian, in the building. I think this is the first time I've ever introduced him and not accidentally called him mayor.
It's okay.
Because he was our mayor in Atlantic City for a little while. Good morning, Assemblyman. How are you, sir?
Good morning. It's great. It's great to see turntables. I don't think I've seen them in my house for about 30 years, but I do still have one up in the attic.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, next time you come, we're gonna give you some headphones and bring out some records and let you spin.
Cool. As long as it's from the 60s and 70s, I'll know all the words.
Oh, okay. There you go.
You keep all your albums because Fridays there used to be a $1 a day for albums, whatever the top album of the week was. And so you had a large collection. They went in boxes. You move, and you don't open the boxes. You move, you don't open the boxes. After about 15 years, I just threw away all the records. Sorry to do that now, but you can't keep things forever. Louis, my husband, forced me last year. He said, you got out of college 50 years ago. You have about 20 boxes of books up there that you haven't opened in at least 30 years. Do you think they could go? And I said, yeah, let's donate them to the library. So slowly I'm getting rid of things because I don't want him to have to spend a couple of weeks in the attic getting rid of my Boy Scout and record collections and books and other stuff that I haven't used.
Goodness, I never throw away records, and I definitely never throw away books, so that's where we're different. But hey, I get it.
Tell me that in 50 years.
I get it though. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Light, and we are here with Assemblyman Don Guardian for our civic engagement segment. And as I told you before, with the election less than a month away, we're giving you civic engagement stories, interviews, just about every day. And so I want to thank Brett for setting this up. And we've wanted to have Don Guardian, Assemblyman Guardian, here for a while. And shout out to Assembly Person Swift as well, another friend of the show. We got to get her here eventually. So let's get right to it. Please tell us about your platform this time around.
Sure. I've been the Assemblyman for 4 years now. It's really been an honor and a pleasure to recognize issues that are critical to Atlantic County, South Jersey, the Jersey Shore in particular in Trenton. Claire Swift and myself consider ourselves bipartisan. Obviously we're in the minority party, and so we need to work with Democrats, but even if we were in the majority, I tell you, not a whole lot would change on our attitude. Where North Jersey or Central Jersey elected officials may not be familiar with issues that are critical to us, we're able to meet with them and, in a very professional manner, be able to discuss them. So, if it's the budget, if the budget has more good than bad, we vote for it. If it's more bad than good, we vote against it. But I think in the last 4 years, we're certainly happy to make sure that people that own property are able to get the $1,500 back each year. If they make less than $165,000, they make less than $250,000, they get $1,000 back. Another $250 if they're senior citizens. Passing the legislation that says if you're over 65, your taxes are frozen. We want to mimic what happened on the national level, and we have legislation that I hope we vote for in the lame duck session this year, which would make sure that you don't have to pay your state tax on your Social Security if you're over 65, or pay any tax on income that you earn as tips or with overtime. We have issues down here, actually all over Jersey, in terms of flooding, and so I think that's been a critical area. We have to continue to raise areas that are too low, work on bulkheading. Right now, beach replenishment is all we've tried to keep our beaches open. There's some new concepts that are out there about building a rock jetty, not perpendicular but horizontal to the beach, so it actually would break the effect of the waves before they get to the beach. Housing, cost of living, cost of taxes, and now cost of energy is real critical. So I think you're going to see that as being an issue that is going to be on top of everyone's agenda. That is, how do we provide new sources of energy that are cleaner than what we have now, but it's also affordable? Because the less income you have, the more hurt there is if you can't afford to heat the house or air condition it in the summer. Outside of that, changes all the time. This summer, all of a sudden, e-bikes and safety issues were about them. When we started 4 years ago, everything was about unemployment, people not being able to get it or having difficulty getting it. Now, if you try to travel in the United States, you need to have a real ID, which is your old driver's license, but you have to provide some additional information, and then they actually put a little star in the upper right-hand corner. You have to wait a couple of months to get into motor vehicles, so we're lucky in getting motor vehicle to come to our office in Egg Harbor Township once a month, and we're able to handle about 60 people every month. Our staff helps the motor vehicle staff, so it really blows you through. Maybe 15 or 30 minutes is all it's going to take for you to get it. Those are the issues I think that are here right now. If we're looking at a bigger picture, I don't know how far you want to get. Bigger picture is, I think it's sad in the last 10 years or so, the amount of hatred that seems to be building in the country. So
I'll get to that.
Oh,
I apologize for cutting you
just
off.
general.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Probably what I should have asked you first.
Yeah.
What I usually do is, the segment is called Civic Engagement. And so I'm just a radio station DJ, which means I'm not that intelligent and I'm actually quite not that smart. So this is what I like you to do. Could you explain to me what the job of assembly person is in a way, now explain it in a way that a radio station disc jockey can understand it?
Well, I think every time we speak, we should speak in a manner that's not insulting. It shouldn't be overhead or underhead. It just should be common sense. So I think the biggest service that we provide is the state is divided based on population. So if about every 220,000 people, you get to have two assemblymen, two assembly people, and one senator. So down here in Atlantic County, Claire Swift and myself are the assembly representatives, and Vince Palestina is the senator. We have two offices. One is in Atlantic City, one is in Egg Harbor Township. We have a staff, pretty normal hours, 8:30 or so to 5:30. We deal with a lot down here compared to other offices. It really has to do probably with English as a second language, with poverty, with lack of knowledge of how government works. But we handle about 10,000 people a year. Some things we can handle directly, like things that are related to the state, like unemployment, like driver's license. But we're the last stop for most people. So when they come in, they're usually not happy. They're losing their homes. They're trying to find a place for the kid to get into rehab because they don't have insurance. They're losing utilities, or they've been shut off, and they need to get them turned back on again. They lost their health insurance. They're looking for a job. They're looking for help with continued education. And so our staff's pretty knowledgeable in finding out who's out there that can help them. Jewish Family Services, the Catholic Charities, the county in many cases. So that's one part of the job. But our job really is, one, passing legislation that is going to affect your life because we think it's needed, and passing the state budget. So the governor presents a budget. There's 3 months of talking about it, and then we actually vote on that particular budget. That's a real issue that you have with both the Senate and the Assembly. Senate, most people don't realize, a little bit more critical because there is every position that the governor appoints in a particular district, the senator has to agree with that. It's not written, it's an unwritten rule that if the senator does not agree with that, then that position's not filled, even though the governor wants to fill it. We're talking about judges, we're talking about all those agencies that run highways and bridges, the Casino Control Commission, the CRDA, all of those positions. It also includes the local senator. So if you think of the state like the federal government, so we have a president, we have a governor, we have the Senate, which is the same in both, and then you have Congress on a national level, and you have the Assembly in the state of New Jersey.
All righty. Thank you for that breakdown. I really appreciate it. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Assemblyman Donald Guardian, who is here. He wants your vote. He wants to go back to Trenton.
Yes.
He wants to go back to Trenton. Actually, he's in Trenton now. He wants to stay there. He's the incumbent, and he's the one of two Republican nominees, two Republican incumbents who are running for assemblyman or assembly person in the upcoming November election. All right, so full disclosure, before you came on, I asked you how far I could go, because people who come here, especially when they're running for office, they know that I don't attack people, and I do realize sometimes people come and they have the talking points that they want to get through, and if that's that's why they come, I just ask the questions and I let people answer. And even if I don't agree with your answer, I might give a little pushback, but I'm not going to jump on your case. That being said, historically, since President Johnson, people of color have been Democrats. See, some of us radio station DJs do know a little bit about sex. Yeah. So that being the case, quite frankly, as a person of color, why should I consider giving you and Claire my vote this November?
Because I'm going to be able to represent everyone in Atlantic County and the state of New Jersey. I vote almost exclusively with the position of the NAACP. So I see that as the one agency that's out there and has been around, I don't know, 100 years or close to that, that tries to stay as bipartisan as they can, but they represent the interests and needs of those that are being downtrodden. Now, in many cases that happens to be African Americans, but they're very good on protecting everyone else. So they're looking for justice and equality, and I certainly applaud them for that, and it would be very hard for me to not vote with them. It may happen on occasion for other reasons, but I'm going to usually vote with that. My office, does in particular speak out to African Americans in terms of the language we speak, but my office, obviously, we speak English, Spanish, Mandarin, we speak Hindi, and we speak Bengali. So that's because people where English is a second language have a rough time. I'm always looking out to make sure that there's as fair as an equality as you can get. I say that because people can hide behind their racism, behind their anti-Semitism and things. But as you look at laws, you got to look at everything there. So sometimes a law that may not seem to be a black and white issue, meaning a racial issue, there it really is, because it's going to disproportionately hurt people of color, especially when you realize, at least in Atlantic City, that we have a large percentage of those that are the poorest among us that happen to be black. So you have to look out for racism all the time. Sometimes it's an easy fix. You know, if you look at a police department, a fire department, employees of a particular municipal government, and you don't see black faces, well, you don't need someone to do statistics for you and stuff like that. Something's got to be wrong with that. You know, if you look at a police department, you got to see that there's not only a chief that might happen to be black, but what about your lieutenants, and what about your captains, what about your sergeants and things. So I think you have to look at that in every respect. I think it's important to look at what's going on with schools, you know, when we talk about higher education. So in this case, really the things that we have the best support of is state colleges and certainly our community colleges. What's the percentage of? What's the percentage of African Americans that are out there? What's the percentage in college? It should be the same. And if it's not, then we have to adjust to what that is. In some cases, it's providing additional funding to make sure that poverty is not a reason that you don't continue your education. And even on a local level, from pre-kindergarten through 12th grade, you should be able to graduate with the skills that you need to get a decent job. And that should be across the board. It should have nothing to do with the race. You mentioned, you know, since Johnson and Civil Rights Act of '64 and then '68, that yes, Democrats and blacks seem to be one-on-one. It certainly changed the last 4 or 5 years and things like that. And I think a black individual thinks more about issues and individuals than they think about the party. And I would suggest that to everyone there. Don't vote for someone just because they're Republican or Democrat or independent, or vote for them because of the issues. Vote if you've been in office. Look at our record. You can look that up anytime. How did we vote on issues that were important to you? You know, you can extend that. You got a broad thing here. We could probably come back an hour a week and talk about this, but that extends to everything. So, you know, who writes our history books? And as a kid, do I see myself in the history that I read? Well, I did when I was a kid. I'm a white guy and stuff like that. And what did you read in the American history books? It was all about usually white, happened to be Europeans. Well, the history of the United States isn't just about a bunch of white guys making history. It's about everyone. And so whether I'm gay or lesbian, whether I'm black, whether I'm Indian or Asian, whether I'm Italian, it doesn't make a difference. I should be able to read through history, and they should be people that I can look at and see that they were a critical part. And I should also look what the problems the United States have. I mean, I think we're still the greatest country in the world, but we have a lot of really sad history that has happened here. We've got to acknowledge that, and we've got to acknowledge it so we don't repeat ourselves.
Wow. Okay. All right. You said some things, Assemblyman Guardian. Nothing of which, on the face, I could argue. So this is what I will do. And I promise you get a chance to talk about all the great things that you're going to do coming up in your next term, because we need to know that. But you know, as you're discussing all the things that you've discussed, I'm going to ask you this question. I had Timothy Alexander, who is running against Jeff Van Drew for 2026 in the election for Congress. I asked him this question. And you alluded to hate earlier. From where we are right now, at this moment in time, should the conversation move from racism to white supremacy? And I'm saying being able to sit down, you and I, two intelligent people, and saying at one point the problem was racism, is now the time to say the problem is no longer just racism, it's actually white supremacy?
I think it's beyond white supremacy. So, you know, racism is an issue, and it's gotten worse in the last 10 years.
Did you say beyond white supremacy?
Yeah, beyond white supremacy.
Are you sure you're a Republican?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia, those are all issues that we have. It's not cool to talk about them in most circles now when you're educated and things, so sometimes it's hidden. But you've always got to fight against that thing. So
Okay.
I think there's no question that we've made strides since 1964. Abraham Lincoln back in 1855.
Right.
So he died in 1866.
That's about 5 years
1865.
before I was born.
Okay, no, 1865.
I'm joking.
Anyway,
I'm joking.
at one point, he's not even running for president yet. But they said, what's the problem that you have with slavery? I mean, it's the way the South works and things like that. And he said, it's inhumane. It can't be done. We should have solved this problem when we formed this country. We didn't, but we've got to fix it. And the response back to him was, do you think that people that are slaves are going to be able to just not be slaves and be able to get a job and take care of themselves? And he said, no. He goes, I think there's going to be a lot of hatred. This is Lincoln.
Right.
10 years before the Emancipation Proclamation, he said it's going to take 100 years before there's equality. Right. So this is a guy that would have been 1955. He was off by 10 years.
Okay.
It took until Civil Rights Act to actually put some teeth behind the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment and things like that. But I think it's going to always be there. People have always got to stand up against it. So you got to look through and you got to make sure that it's not there. And racism can be against, Latinos. It can be, in the United States, because we're an immigrant nation. We depend on immigrants coming into this country every year. We've got.
Hey, somebody get me a Republican in here. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
You've got to realize, we always are going to look for the scapegoat. So, it might have been Jews, it might have been Eastern Europeans, it might have been Irish or Italians. Usually it's the poorest group that everyone is against. It is a shame that somehow so many of these groups have come out of that position. But it's a lot easier if you look like me. For those on radio, I'm pointing them as skin.
Right.
It's a lot easier for me to become part of the United States. I'm only first generation American and things like that. But most people just said, hey, based on that accent, you got to be from Hudson County. And you got to be here forever and things. But when you're a black man, you can be the richest guy. You can own your corporation. You can be president of the United States. You're still black. And you should be proud of it. You're a black American, I think.
Right.
But there shouldn't be anything that we have. The Constitution says equality for everyone. We tried to form a more perfect union, I guess 249 years ago and stuff like that. Right. We're still not there. So we always got to be working against that. So you're going to see that out there. Everyone's got to stand up for it. Everyone's got to be able to say Black Lives Matter.
Well, let me progress here, because this is something else I discussed with Tim Alexander when he was here, and I'll ask you to comment if you choose to. The first time I used a open air transgender bathroom, it wasn't even a argument back then. I was in Philly back in the 90s, I think, at one of the clubs on Delaware Avenue. I'm doing my business, number one, and a couple ladies come through and they're going to the stalls. And then it hit me, you know what? If I'm at a urinal, in order for anybody to see anything, they gotta do a lot of moving and maneuvering. I gotta let them see some stuff. And then if you're a woman, you're using a stall. And so, what's the deal with the whole transgender? To me, the transgender thing is just another Willie Horton issue.
So I'll start with bathrooms because that's easy, and then
Okay,
we'll move
all
into
right.
trans. I have no problem
Right.
to discuss that.
Right.
So, I grew up in the 70s. It's a whole different world. And we were all we were all the same age. We outnumbered everyone else.
Right.
But if you went to, certainly if you went to a gay club, there were not enough stalls for women. So women, girls, were always in the boys' room, men's room and things. When I went to a a sports activity in a stadium, Yankee
Yeah,
Stadium.
yeah.
They
Women
never
would
had
come
enough bathrooms for women, and so you'd have women in your bathroom when you went to a show
Right.
in New York City. So my point is, I never thought that was unusual. I got it. They had to go to the bathroom. You could either wait for 60 women in front of you, or could go to the men's room and things like that. I never saw that an issue. That's just part of what you have to do. And so I'm in another generation now. I don't see the issue there. When I was at the Claridge, I was an exec when it was a casino and things. And I remember we were changing out one of the restaurants.
Right.
And so the question was, what do we do with bathrooms? Do we allow men and women and men's and things like that? And I guess it went to legal, and legal said, just have individual stalls. It just says restroom, and it can be either man or woman, the singular, you lock the door and stuff. So that's the easy way out there.
Right.
But so that's the first part. The second part is, the trans issue. I think 20 years ago, I don't think people even knew what trans was. You may have seen someone dressed in drag. You might have seen a cross-dresser. You might have misinterpreted that as to what that was and things. But it pretty much fell under the category of gay and things like that.
Right.
So
Well,
now
I'm saying right, but
we know a
honestly,
lot better.
I'm sorry, I just have to be
Sure.
transparent.
Yeah.
I grew up in the 80s, so a lot of it I understand on paper, but as far as ideological, I just try not to offend anybody. Like, if you want to identify as whatever, I'm going to come.
LGBTQIA.
Well, but yeah, whatever you want to identify as, that's what I'm going to refer to you as. Because I'm a man, and when I say I'm a man, I mean from the standpoint of I'm a man and I want to be respected as a man, no more, no less. So whatever, somebody else wants to, sometimes I don't get it, but it's not for me to get, it's for me to respect. And so I'm just saying, you come from one generation, I come from a different generation. I will say this too, shout out to kids from the 2000s up, because they're much better at grasping all this stuff than I am.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you have more acceptance once you find someone. If we talk about the issue with black and white, take a white racist, he becomes, that disappears when he has a grandkid that's black in things. Like life changes and things. And it's because we tend to live in a bubble. That bubble could be based on your religious principles, it could be based on income, or where your parents work, or the neighborhood you grow up. But at some point you realize there's more than your bubble of friends. And the point of equality and acceptance has to be reached, and that comes with maturity. You don't have to just say you want to be treated such a way because you're a man and stuff. The Constitution of the United States says that you're guaranteed to be treated equally. And so the point is, it's your right as an American citizen to absolutely be guaranteed you're going to be treated right. And that goes across everything else. And yes, it includes a trans kid, or a kid that thinks he might be trans, or moving into trans and stuff, has got to feel that there's a warm and inviting environment when he's going to school, when he's on the playground, etc. And we're not there yet in terms of how we're dealing with trans, and we get confusion when we talk about sports and things like that. But everyone needs to feel comfortable, warm, and protected if they live in the United States.